Good morning, everyone. I'm Vaddhanaphuti from Bangkok. Welcome Ajaan Chayan and also everyone here for the event. And after 1 month after earthquake, and today we have two here at Faculty of Social Science CMU. And then the evening at 4 o'clock we will have the fundraising event in London, and there are many activities coming today. And today here we are at the Faculty of Social Science CMU, and then we will have a public seminar on 1 month after earthquake and the impacts on Myanmar and Thailand and people approach. Today we have Ajaan Chayan Vaddhanaphuti that he will be giving the speech very soon, and we have 3 of the speakers, Ohnmar, and she will speak on the situations, updates, and political trends in Myanmar after earthquake. And after that, Ajaan Suebsakun Kidnukorn from Luang University, he will speak on people-to-people humanitarian and socio-cultural integration of migration in Chiang. And last speaker, Khun Adisorn Kerdmongkol from Migrant Working Group, he will speak about situations of migrants in Bangkok and also policy update about migrant workers. And today there are collaborations from different organizations, and today we have the objectives of today's event is that to understand the situation and needs and humanitarian assistance after earthquake in Myanmar and Thailand. One main aim is also to build up collaboration and coordination for humanitarian assistance among Thai and Myanmar for future recovery period. And the last one, we want to raise public awareness and understanding about the problems related to gaps and complexity of economic, social, and politics in Myanmar and Thailand. And we now, I would like to invite Ajaan Chayan to give the opening speech.
Good morning, friends and colleagues. Especially, I would like to express my appreciation for Burma Concern to organize this event, at least bring all of us together to ponder upon the unfortunate event happening a month ago. This earthquake has created a lot of damages in the dry zone or in Sagai, Mandalay, and also some part of Inle Lake. We do not know exactly how this earthquake has impacts upon places in Myanmar, particularly on lives of the people. I heard that some, not only these big buildings, but also some of the small places where nuns, the small nuns, the nunneries also has been damaged. The nuns cannot collect food as they usually do, or usually did. So it is a good opportunity for us to assess the situation after the earthquake 1 month, to see how much damages, who actually have been victim of this earthquake. But there's also other aspect that we should consider. For example, how the cross-border humanitarian assistance can be delivered. I do understand that Khun Suebsakun has initiated to bring trucks of food and other supply across border from Chiang Rai to via Tachilek into the dry zone, the area which has been hit heavily. Some people in Chiangmai and Bangkok also raised some money and also supplies to bring to the victim of the earthquake. But we do not know exactly whether the aid assistance has been reached to the people. And how about the assistance from ASEAN to Burma? We do not know. The situation is really different from the Nagri situation. So I think we want to discuss about the difference between how this international community, including ASEAN, play a role in helping the victims of the earthquake, comparing with the Nagri situation. But more importantly, I think we also would like to see how humanitarian assistance has been used as a weapon or as a means to control or means to to convince the people to support the authority. Right? So, as you all remember, the election is coming soon. Right? So maybe this humanitarian assistance has been used to support certain parties involved. The visit of Myanmar to Bangkok almost a week ago, what does it mean in terms of the collaboration agreement among the neighboring countries, particularly the meeting between Myanmar and the Malaysian Prime Minister? So what does it mean, including meeting with Thaksin, how this will be sort of becoming an issue that bring the attention away from the earthquake, but focusing upon more towards the certain agreement, or strengthen Myanmar for his attempt to grip on the power. So there are several issues that need to be discussed after 1 month of the earthquake. I do not want to set the tone for the discussion today, but I'm sure that you all have some issue to talk about, to discuss, and learn from the situation after 1 month. So thank you for coming today. I may not be able to join you all today because I also have other activities. So thank you very much. So I wish that the discussion will go well. We can learn of each other today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ajaan. And actually, I and Ajaan, we worked since Nagits in 2008, and many friends here also started to learn about Myanmar in that situation. And now the earthquake again is the disaster, both natural and political disaster, that we have to learn the complexity of Myanmar. And today we very honored to have Markin Ohnmar to speak about those kind of complexity in Myanmar in this kind of natural and political disaster. Please.
Thank you. Thanks, A and Burma Consent for organizing this, and thank you, Ajaan, for all your unwavering support for the Myanmar people all these years, and of course the RCSD and CMU for this safe space for us to keep coming and bring in the issues that our people are facing in the country. And thanks to all of you for joining. if I can go ahead and start my presentation and share with you more in the later part. I want to bring to you to give you the overview prior to the earthquake first. Sorry, I'm not good with this, so I'm trying again. Okay, now I get it. So if I may just share with you overview of what was happening before the earthquake, just to give you the overview from 2024. What we were seeing is already in the third year of in the fourth year of the People's Revolution in Myanmar. The military, of course, continuing what they know the best is the violence across the country, and they arrested already over 28,000 activists and supporters of the democracy, and over 22,000 remain in prison, and the arrests continue even today. What we're seeing is also routine of torture, including sexual and gender-based violence. There are also cases of summary executions in the prisons. And according to the local documentations, the military junta has committed at least 300 massacres. That's starting from 2021. And we're seeing in 2024 alone, we're seeing over 2,400 airstrikes. And that is actually 104% increase from 2023, where we see over 2,200 civilians were killed from the airstrikes. In 2025, before the earthquake, in the 3 months' time, there were already over 500 airstrikes in 3 months. And also the casualty was already quite high. 66 women were killed in the month of March alone, and of which 50 women were killed by the airstrikes. And there were also a large number of children as well. We already see in the humanitarian crisis quite further intensified throughout the 2024, with over 3.5 million internally displaced people who were fleeing from the military's violence. But that particular population received very nominal humanitarian assistance from the international community, and especially because they were fleeing from the airstrikes and the conflicts. And the military intentionally blocked the aid to reach to those who were fleeing from the war. The only assistance, humanitarian assistance, reached to those most vulnerable population were basically from the like-minded donors, and also the donors who reach or who look into the alternative solutions, work with the civil society and local community-based organizations, ethnic service providers, more like informally through their border channelings. And that's what's been tested and found to be most effective way of reaching the aid to the most vulnerable in the country for the past 4 years. Of course, the economic hardship has come to be really unbearable. Even the rice commodities, the price of the rice become very unbearable for the ordinary people. And on top of that, there was forced conscription by the junta started last year, already forcibly recruited over 20,000 already. And that's also one of the very reasons you see many of the young people, both men and the women, come into Thailand more larger number in 2024 because they want to evade or avoid this military's forced conscription. And we're seeing some cases from Thailand. Even just recently, there was a 200 young men who were in the age range for the forced conscription were deported by the Thai authorities in Ranao recently. And we know from the ground that these men will be actually sent to the military camps for the military to use as human shields or use them as frontline soldiers. So that's where things were before the earthquake. But in terms of the political landscape before the earthquake, what we're seeing is the democratic resistance movement has gained a lot more effective control of the country. And there is a research saying that over 70% of the land has become under effective control by the resistance movement. That will be namely will be the National Unity Government, People's Defense Forces, and their allies, ethnic resistance organizations in their respective ethnic areas, such as in Kachin, Karenni, Chin, Karen, and all. You will see also there's been interim governance arrangements being set up on the ground. So the concept of the bottom-up federal democracy has come to be in practice, as they are facing the military's violence, airstrikes, and all of that. But people are not waiting. What we're seeing is that, such as in the Karenni, across from Mehosong, you will see that there is an interim governance and institutions set up, local administrations by the people, but also in some by the civilians, but also in some cases it's a hybrid because of the security. You will see these local governance structures and institutions coming to be established, including looking into establishing or developing the transitional arrangements, such as transitional constitutions, and also setting up the judiciary, and also setting up the service provisions for the people, including health and education. So you see all of this are coming up on the ground. At the same time, we're seeing the resistance movement maintaining the diplomatic support at the highest level of the United Nations in New York at the UN General Assembly, where the ambassador from the resistance movement from the National Unity Government side remained to be the incumbent ambassador representing the sovereign state of Myanmar. But at the same time, when there are some of these progress being made by the resistance in their homegrown political transformation process, we saw the China increase pressure to the resistance throughout the year and also until now, to the point that the northern command of Lazio is now given back to the military junta, because it was China who not only pressure from outside, they are now in Myanmar, in Lazio, setting up these things. So China's aggression into the Myanmar sovereign state in allying with the military junta has come to be very, very dangerous and unprecedented, and we're very, very concerned. We're seeing at the same time the ASEAN pressure also with the diplomatic way, pushing the democratic resistance to get into quote-unquote dialogue with the military junta. And that remains to be how the current approach of the ASEAN under the leadership of Malaysia as chair. On the other hand, the military junta, of course, lost a significant territorial control. What they have is one-third, more or less one-third of the country, and they lost many regional commands. But what they have more powerfully is the airstrikes. The air power is something that the international community is not able to help or stop, while the resistance movement on the ground don't also have that level of capacity to stop the military's airstrikes. So military is using the fighter jets, also the combatant drones. Now, lately in last year, we're seeing more of them using paramotors. And paramotors is much closer to the ground, where they can take the people's lives even much more by number than compared to the fighter jets which has to fly from farther above the sky. However, in this combination, the casualty of the civilians is very severe. We're seeing the military is targeting intentionally to the civilian areas, including the IDP camps, the clinics, schools, and also the religious sites. And even the local markets on the daylight, like 10 a.m. in the morning, they see there is a local market, but they will still bomb. So that's where things are at the moment. And they're gaining more support from China, Russia, and also from the ASEAN. Now, as we all know, we mark in the 1 month of the earthquake. this is quite a catastrophic geological disaster, like Ajaan Chayan said, quite different from Cyclone Nargis, which was natural disaster, but this is more geological, so that's the very reason. Even after 1 month, we're seeing hundreds of aftershocks or the smaller earthquakes. Even last night, there was a 4.4 magnitude in Mandalay and Sagaing, and where people run out and again try to sleep on the outside. They're so afraid of even staying in their small houses at this point. So over 4.5, over 4 point, and also over 5 point magnitudes. There have been quite a few number in the last weeks. So that's very also where the people the trauma has become very severe now. The people's trauma of this fear, first they thought that was the airstrikes, but then they now know that this is actually not the airstrikes, but the earthquake. But then in some of the earthquake hit areas, it is the combination, right? They have to worry about the ground shaking, but they're also worrying about the bombs being dropped from the sky, like in Sagaing and Mandalay that we're seeing. So according to the data from the Democratic Voice of Burma, the casualty for 4,400, injury 11,000, affected more than 190,000 people, but also the homes and buildings over 50,000 damage. That includes the religious sites, including some of the over 100-year-old mosques. For example, the mosques in Myanmar, because again it is a systemic discrimination against the Islamic community, where the mosques are not allowed to renovate or even rebuild. So now we lost all of these historical sites, and yet the Muslim community themselves will not have a chance to rebuild because of that law. That just to show you a few of the, you see on the yellow building, that's also a very old historical mosque that's been destroyed, with many dying in the mosque because that's the Ramadan time. So just to share with you, what we see is that, according to the hunters' announcement, they have received quite significant amount of aid in cash and also in kind. But we're seeing some discrepancy between different ministries' announcement of what they received from where. There are certain amount being disclosed, but there are certain amounts that are not being disclosed from different countries. Big countries, smaller countries with a goodwill are donating in cash, but also plane loads of the relief materials are being also delivered. And there were also rescue missions, but most of the rescue missions were not really allowed to utilize the 72 hours of the golden hours opportunity to save the people, because the junta didn't allow. But only those who were allowed, missions that were allowed, that we can see in Mandalay or beyond, like in Sagaing, are from like Malaysia, China, India, and Turkey, I think. So compared to the international assistance coming in and what has actually reached, including the rescue efforts, we are seeing disproportionate. And also that is because of this military not giving access. Even in Mandalay, Naypyidaw, that's where the capital and the military hunters' stronghold, of course, they sit there. But there were a lot of damage, but they didn't give the information out. And those international rescue or the aid reached to the ministries, staffs like that. But the ordinary people live in Naypyidaw didn't really get much of that. Even the civil society who are trying to get the aid to the people in a very quiet way, being reached out by the ordinary people in Naypyidaw area, that we need to support them, because the military is, the aid reached to military didn't reach to the ordinary people. One thing that the victims are saying is that we're hearing from the ground directly, through the media, through our networks, through the human rights defenders that we are in communication with, local volunteers and responders. People are not getting aid until now. even though the first emergency relief phase sort of passed, but there are many places that they didn't they didn't get the emergency relief, but also in the current time of the recovery, people are not able to lean on or looking into who will come and help them. But then we learned that there are international aid loads stockpiled in the warehouses in Yangon and Naypyidaw that we don't know how long they're going to keep there or who they will give. But then we're seeing the unfair distribution. For example, like international relief tents are given to the more high economic and social class, such as like Sky Villa, that is well known to the world in Mandalay, but that is the more high social economic class, higher class, and they were given the international aid tents, relief tents. But then you see the ordinary people just by the railroads. You see them in a very locally makeshift tents, for example. That is the donation come from the locals, including our civil society who mobilize. Then you don't really see the military around the people to help out. So you can see also like how the stockpiles of the aid are in warehouses. And like Ajahn Chayan said, the obstruction and weaponization of aid is something including my organization, we are very, very alert and very worried. So we keep monitoring as much as we can to see. So we are seeing that, for example, the international aid is not reaching, particularly under the resistance effective control areas. Clearly the junta will not allow. But it doesn't mean the aid is not reaching there, because aid is reaching to those under the resistance control areas because of the independent civil society and community-based groups trying their best to get there as much as we are able to get. So that's where things are at the moment. But then we also learn now that the junta has a clear directive not to allow the aid distributed to the war-affected or war-fled IDPs. So even in the Mandalay or Sagaing areas where many people will flee from Shan State to their relatives in Mandalay and Sagaing, but they are not given the aid, earthquake relief, because they fled from war. So there is a clear indication that I would say it's another proof for the last 4 years why the international and UN agencies, quote-unquote humanitarian aid being funneled to the military junta never reached to the war-affected population, and that's the very reason why. Now I want to bring very quickly to the military-made disaster, because we see a lot of the earthquake, natural disaster all over the world in the news, but what we're not seeing, including even in Thai media, is the constant bombing of the military. Yeah. So, and also their destruction. So we said more than 50,000 being destroyed by the earthquake. Well, let's look at also what has been destroyed by the military. At least over 100,000 civilian homes and then civilian buildings are being destroyed by military's arson and also the airstrike. And even in January 2025 alone, 588 civilian homes were destroyed. And the airstrikes continue in spite of the junta's so-called ceasefire declaration. And according to the documentation from the media and local organizations, 167 at least airstrikes. It doesn't include yesterday. There were more bombing yesterday. And 167 airstrikes starting from March 28 during the earthquake time that killed 191 civilians, injured 314 in Sagaing, Mandalay, Magui, Mon, Shan, Chin, Bago, Kachin, Karan, Karani, Taninai, Rakhine, and Irrawaddy. Basically, you're seeing the whole country being bombed, yeah? I would... Oh, sorry, because of the... Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I totally forgot. Sorry about that. So, even in the 3 days, I don't know, it's not going down. I'm going to have to look at from my PowerPoint because it's not showing on the... So even where is it? Sorry. So even in the 3 days between April 18 to 20, during the time when Mayor Line came to meet with Prime Minister Anwar in Bangkok, there were airstrikes, killed 55 civilians and injured 90 civilians. So Anwar was talking to Mayor Line in Bangkok, and yet we're seeing more of the people being killed by the bombings under his command. I just want to show you some, this is Mandalay airstrikes. That's all in the counting between March 28 to April 26. This is Mandalay. Imagine it is the closest to the epicenter of the earthquake. This is a guy and Chin. Many children, including the infants, were killed. Sakai. So these are the things that you don't see on international media, not like the earthquake. Tanindai. And this is a guy on April 20th. And this is Mon State on April 19th. And this is Rakhine. This is Magway. And this is Shan. And in case of Shan, according to the local eyewitnesses reporting, is at least 23 poison gas bombs were dropped over Nangcho Township between 21 and 24 April. People suffer from low blood pressure, dizziness, vomiting after inhaling that toxic gas. And this is a guy also. So just to show you the map, this is where the Hontas bombing's been since earthquake. So my last point, the Myanmar people's resilience is very strong, and the people-to-people response has been the coping strategy in responding to the military-made disaster for the last 4 years already, along with the other natural disaster that we experience in the country, including the Cyclone Mocha in 2023, Typhoon Yagi in 2024. It's always been the people who had to respond to that, try to find a way to evade arrest, and try to find as much as they can. So the local civil societies, local networks, volunteer groups mobilize, both within the country, also from outside, including those students from the Chiangmai University came out right away to do the fundraising. And the diaspora played a major role to address this very worsening humanitarian crisis for the last 4 years. Now they added their efforts for this earthquake disaster that they've been actually mobilizing, fundraising, and all together. There's been need assessment by the local groups, frontline responders, CDM doctors and nurses continue to play a major role. Under the National Unity Government, they are providing the health services, of course, very, very quietly, right? Otherwise, they will get arrested. And even there was a case of the mobile clinic providing the health care to the earthquake victim or affected communities, got bombed, basically. So that's what the military has been doing. So we are seeing the local groups doing the need assessment, looking into Ajaan, not only for the immediate relief, but also for the recovery, intermediate, and the long run also. How are we going to address that, right? So just to give you one piece of information here, the the civilian government under Daw Aung San Suu Kyi time, they actually had a national budget reserved, 100 billion Myanmar kyat, only for the natural disaster, and in which they even formed what they call as the emergency operation coordination committees, those in the different townships. And that is something that National Unity Government reactivated immediately in a few hours of the earthquake. Yeah, but the budget was seized by the military, right? So they have already given out according to their own media, is like a 400, out of 1,000 billion jet, 400 billion jet has been given to the development projects in 2022. But then the question now is, did they actually go to the development projects? The next question is, what happened to the 600 billion jet? Only reserved for such natural disaster, yeah? So that is on top of all of the international aid and money, cash, kind donations coming in, right? So I'm not going to get into that for now, but there is a question that we are trying to look into is also the military junta use at least 4 exchange rates in the country. So what you see on the international system is not what is being used. They will use according to their own benefit, based on how they can benefit to gain the dollar. This is the old method from the previous General Tan Shui's time. That's how they will always gain the international US dollar for their own purpose by having the different exchange rates. So now the question is, how much of that or what exchange rate is being used or utilized by the junta in order to extract the dollar out of the international aid money? This is something beyond my understanding in terms of the economic side. So, but that this is something definitely that as a civil society we are looking into. So now what we're doing is also the advocacy. So this is a part of like monitoring is a part of our advocacy, as well as to warn the international donor, asking them, including to put in place the measures for the accountability, monitoring. Because we need to ensure the junta doesn't obstruct and weaponize the aid and use for their coming election political purpose. With that, I end my presentation here and looking forward to your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, King Ohnmar. It's very difficult and emotional to see those kind of fear happening in Myanmar. One part is a fear of earthquake, but another part is fear of airstrikes. It really reflects the complexity of this disaster under the control of the SAC. But one thing is like the light of hope and solidarity is something is also happened during the Nagis at that time, and also the people of two people, of Myanmar people from here to the Myanmar people inside, and also internationally. And this also linking well to that, I would like to invite Ajaan Suebsakun, because he also using the people and people approach in Chiang Rai, and some of his colleagues already now in Myanmar. And this, I think, is one kind of effort of Thai friends and Myanmar friends that have doing the solidarity together.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me to share you my experiences and my work in providing long distance humanitarian assistance across the border, right? Okay. Okay. Is in the canvas. You can see like the overlap between the natural disaster and political conflict in Myanmar. So it's very complicated, right, to provide the assistance, and especially we are in the Thailand. It's, I think, more difficult in providing assistance as well. Okay, I will show you some effort from a very small volunteer-based organization in Chiang Rai. Okay, let me introduce myself. My name is Suebsakun Kidnukorn. I am a lecturer in the School of Social Innovation, Maphalong University, Chiang Rai Province, close to the Thai border. Okay, and I also a founder of the Migrant Worker Center in Chiang Rai Province since the first year of COVID-19. Okay. For my title is the 4C for people to people humanitarian assistance, transnationalism, integration, and remoteness. Actually, I have one more C, right? First C is the construction of communities beyond borders, right? Is the foundation to to send the assistance. The second one is to connect the people for need assessment. We need to connect to the local people in Myanmar. And then is a contact for resources mobilizing, especially in Thai society. And then the last one is the continue of mobility in Myanmar. This I think is a key factor, right, in sending the aid or supplies to those who are affected in Myanmar. Actually, there is another C is I think the contradiction of the junta regime. It's very interesting, right? I think the junta leader call for the international aid within 24 hours after the earthquake. It's very interesting. Right? And another, this is on one hand, but on the other hand, he try to control all the international aid, right? And you can see, like, if you, I think, I'm not sure that the UN Secretary General, right, call for the international aid, right, 2 times, right, before Myanmar came to Thailand. I think it's very interesting. And okay, I will not touch on this C, the contradiction of military, because our first speaker already explained very clear pictures about the situation in Myanmar already. Okay. Okay. Let me explain a little bit about the 3 concepts that I use in working with migrant workers. Okay. First of all, I would like to say that I'm working with migrant workers organization, which is a volunteer-based organization. My idea is that I try to, my work, my concept is against the idea of most people, I mean both Thai, Myanmar, academia, community, always see migrant workers as the victims of the structural vulnerability, passive, and isolated from the Thai community. I propose that on one hand, migrant workers are, of course, vulnerable group, both in Myanmar and in Thailand. But on the other hand, migrant workers are very actively in participating in political, economical, cultural activities in their home country and in destination country, Thailand. So this is my idea, right, in working with unskilled migrant workers in Chiang Rai. Okay, let me move on the first concept on transnationalism. Let's try to understand that migrant workers, they are living in the in-between, participating in 2 or more society. They did not leave their culture from their hometown, right? They are living in many local belongings rather than here in Thailand or there in Myanmar. So I will explain more in the practice. And another concept is very important is integration. This refers to the process of how migrants become a part of social, economic, and political and cultural life in the host country, especially in Thailand. And they also it's a 2-way process. This means that Thai people need to learn the culture of the migrant worker at the same time, migrant workers, they need to learn how to live in Thailand as well. Okay, and the last one is about remoteness. I think most migrant workers in Chiang Rai, they come from Mandalay. When they ask where you come from, Mandalay. People, Mandalay. There's many people come from Mandalay, not from the Chan or the Thai Yai in Chiang Rai. They come from Mandalay, right?